to the Redskin. Go, Redskin.
What's good, people? You know, I wanted to come on today and start to do things in a different direction on this channel. So starting from this point on, each week on Wednesday, I'm going to do a podcast, quote unquote. And inside that podcast will be at least a 45-minute to an hour-long show normally. I'm not so certain how long this particular episode will go because it's the first one. So bear with me a little bit. I've never really been one to script anything. It's always been just kind of off the moment or whatever. So, of course, my opinions will stay off the moment as I convey them. But to start with, I definitely need to tell everyone that the show will be based around the Redskins. But at the same time, I'm going to mix some episodes in where it'll be more than just the Redskins. And as I get a little bit more used to doing it, especially here on YouTube when I upload, I'm going to mix in some things like some commercial breaks and, just try to make it a little bit easier to watch, so to speak, instead of just a 45-minute long, listening to me babble. At any rate, I got plans to make the show a lot better than what it may or may not be at right now. But first of all, I wanted to come in and talk a little bit about the Redskins and the Giants game this last weekend. And I'm going to be honest with you, I've tried everything I could do to try to forget this game, but that's near impossible, obviously, because of the magnitude of how bad we were beaten. Especially by at the time, 4-8 team that, basically came up in our house, took over our stadium, and was up 40-0 at the end of the third quarter, 34-0 at half. I mean, when your punter has 409 punting yards and only punts one time in the second half, that's pretty bad, right? Yeah. Redskin fans are right along more than likely with what I'm trying to say here, is that they're completely frustrated of how things are going in the course of being a fan of this team. So to sit back and watch your team get penalized 135 yards during this last football game against the Giants, and to see the horrendous play, you just kind of have to wonder what were they thinking during the week when they had Mark Sanchez and they knew that this is what he can do and this is what he can't do? What were they thinking during the week, thinking, oh, this guy could do this, we could game plan this? I mean, what in the world? That goal line play was horrible. So they make Mark Sanchez do RPOs, right? So when he goes to option off, the guy, hey, if you don't feel comfortable, just hand the ball off to your running back. He takes off on the play, right? Now, if you suck the play in, the object is to get rid of the ball quickly. And the object generally in that type of play that they were in is for him to look at the bubble screen off to the right. I have no clue what he was doing looking to the left, and this is what happens, when you don't pay attention. And what scares me is that he's still our backup. I mean, we could see him on the field again. That really does scare me, by the way. I wasn't just being condescending. You have to stop me sometimes. I guess you could say my filter, is easy to take off but hard to put back on sometimes. But, I mean, I can't believe that we would sign Mark Sanchez and then see how he plays and then still install him as the quarterback going out into the second half. I'm not certain why Josh Johnson wasn't given a shot in the second quarter when we were getting thumped and Mark Sanchez couldn't get a first down. I don't know why. We had like 200 and maybe 90 yards total, and like 220 of them came with Josh Johnson at quarterback. I mean, what was Gruden thinking? I just have to wonder. And somewhere inside my brain, and I'm sure it's in other people's brains, but you have to start to wonder, if he says he couldn't develop Griffin, then what the hell's going on here? Why is he sitting here with Josh Johnson running RPOs? It just makes you go, I mean, we did give up a lot of picks, and then we went in the direction of another guy who openly admitted that he didn't want to play for us. I mean, no, this all sounds dumb. Whoever's responsible for this, probably Bruce Allen, should not still be employed, I wouldn't think. But whatever. Here we are with a quarterback running RPOs, and doing good, I might add. It didn't like the guy did bad. He did good. He scored 16 points, and I mean, he actually was taking us down the field. He did throw a pick, but I'm not even going to hold it against him. He looked so much better than Sanchez. It was unbelievable. The defense was horrendous in this game. Now, I will say that the time of possession situation is so much different now without Alex Smith as the quarterback, but it should not give the defense an excuse to be sucky. I mean, just my opinion. I know there's a lot of guys that put in the work each week, but man, you really can't tell on Sunday. And once again, I'm sorry if I'm over condescending. I'm just frustrated. And plus, it's obvious that this is the truth. I mean, it's not like I'm reaching into a bag of mystery and pulling out the answer. But the first half of the football game, 34-0, was the worst half, I believe, of football I've ever witnessed by the Washington Redskins. Maybe the worst half of football I've ever seen. Period. I'm not. I don't like to sensationalize or get caught up in the moment, But it was bad. Inside of some of the thoughts, Josh Brown didn't start the game at linebacker. Sean Dion Hamilton did. And I'm not real certain he was ready to start the game either, to start an NFL game as the head guy, as the top guy or whatever. Because he didn't look that good. And he actually got hurt, I believe. He hurt his shoulder, I think, in that game. But Brown didn't play. I mean, you got one of the top tacklers in the league, even though he hasn't played that great this year. I'm not going to say he's any all-pro this year. He's been decent. But he missed a practice last week, I believe, and he didn't start the game. And it started up a lot of conversation in the locker room with Brown and the media. So you get to start to see the reason why Brown hasn't gotten one of those long-term deals. He keeps getting this one-year deal here, the one-year deal there. He's on his second one-year deal with us. But you kind of see why when you start seeing this kind of stuff. And, Swearinger has been open about his feelings, and maybe that's the downfall of his game and why he's made his rounds to like 3 teams too. What are we, his 4th team? He said the other day he thought he was at home now. And he's still kind of condescending on the coaching. And some of it is maybe warranted, but, you should hope that stuff would stay in-house. But doesn't it seem odd to anyone that Mason Foster wears the captain on his chest? He has the C on his chest. We got Josh Norman out here making $17 million as the star-studded, quote-unquote, cornerback that we have. But Mason Foster has the C on his chest. What is going on there? Does anybody have an answer on that one? I'll wait. Jordan Reed got hurt in this game. Hurt his foot. From what Gruden said earlier in the week, it is not the same foot that he went through so much problem with before. But they're saying we may not see him again for the rest of the year. You just have to scratch your head at this. But at the same time, it's become normal almost, and you have to start looking at Reed's contract and wondering if and when they might try to part ways. I mean, this coming year would be a perfect time. They could cut ties with him, save $6.1 million in salary cap. He's scheduled to make like 9.7 next year, and we had to take some dead cap to do it, but it would be like $3.5 million, something like that, $3.6 million, and it'd be interesting to see what they're going to do with that moving forward. I want to talk a little bit more about that, in a few minutes, but I wanted to say that the Giants have been playing really good football. I think they've only lost one game since their break or whatever. And when I say really good football, I realize they have problems still. You could see them; they're visible. But I mean, they really kicked our tail. They really did. They beat it bad. And I don't want to say I was surprised at what they brought, because I knew that they were good offensively, even without having Odell Beckham. I knew they would still be good offensively. You know, Shepard's a good wide receiver, and they got a couple other prospects. They have weapons, and they have, if not the best running back prospect in the game, he's got to be the top 2 in the game right now. And Barkley, and he's just nasty. I mean, he did all kinds of crazy stuff to us in that game, including making Clinton Dix look like a complete reject of a player. You have to start wondering about Clinton Dix. It seems like we haven't won a game since we traded for this guy. Maybe that's what's wrong with our defense. I'm not certain if anybody in the head realm of things is smart enough to realize that at this point. But really wish the light bulb would go off. Maybe they could see that Monte is the way to go. Nicholson looked pretty good before they benched him. He did have a couple rough spots, but I like the way that guy plays, and he's got heart. He has had some injuries, though. And my thing with Nicholson would be, he's still young. You don't know what you got completely yet. Clinton Dix takes some of the worst angles of safeties in football today, it seems like, or at least since he came to us. I know that there's a lot of Packer fans that would probably agree with me. But, as far as that goes, I know some people are probably going to be like, oh, we all made the wrong choice there. We gave up a 3rd-round pick, and if we decide not to sign him, we'll get a 3rd-round pick back in compensatory. He'll pull a 3rd-round pick. Somebody's going to sign him. It's going to happen. And if, we choose to bring him back, I'm not certain he really would get that big of a contract from us at this point. He just hasn't played that good, and you're starting to see Gruden start to kind of acknowledge it. And Josh Doxson's now in concussion protocol, and that's another. Here we go again. I mean, Doxson has shown some good flashes when he's had somebody to throw him the ball. I know a lot of people got really bent out of shape because we spent the #1 pick on him and he hadn't really shown us anything. But it's like, okay, he really has tried at times to break out. Alex Smith was never really comfortable throwing him the ball. Colt likes throwing him the ball. The problem is that Colt, makes mistakes. Alex, he makes mistakes, but he doesn't take as many chances as Colt does. And I'm going to talk more about Alex in a second, but the injury situation after this game was just horrible. First of all, we lost 40-16. I don't even want to talk anymore about the Giants game. To hell with that game. It's over with now. I can't believe that we went from 6-3 to 6-7. Can anybody else believe that? It's just horrendous. Everybody's been telling me since the beginning of the year, that the Redskins were nothing. They weren't nothing this year. We got to make it to 6-3, and then Alex Smith went down, and we haven't won anything since. It also coincides with getting Clinton Dix. It seems like the defense has regressed, and the offense is just non-existent now. Whereas before, they may not have been doing a lot, but they were getting time of possession was something that they were controlling. And that's what an Alex Smith brings to the table. Injury situation is not good at all on this team. I already said in the video I made last week that we have 17 players on injured reserve right now. 17. It's very possible that Jordan Reed could hit injured reserve before the end of the week. This depends, I think, on what the doctors say. And it's very possible that Josh Doxson could hit it eventually. Not sure what's going to happen there, but he's in concussion protocol. Hopefully we don't have to hear those words. But, they shut players down. But the injury situation was just horrendous after this game. 7 players didn't practice on Wednesday. 6 were limited. I'm not going to go through the list. I'm going to put it up there for you to see. But it's just Look at that list. It's just bad. The injury situation is horrible right now. You know, even some of the guys who've come back from IR still are listed as limited, or you know, they're fighting stuff out. Morgan Moses stays on this list. He lives on this list. Him and Trent lately, but Morgan Moses lives on this list. He's also the league's most penalized player, period, point blank. Morgan Moses, that is. I talked about that in prior videos as well, about how he gets a lot of holding penalties now because his ankles, man. I swear this guy's, look how, I mean, this guy is huge. He's like, what, 6'8" or something? I mean, he's huge, like 6'9". And his ankles can't be but so strong. I mean, that's a big man. Look at him. In the future, when I do these episodes, this will be a spot where I would kick in some game footage, some film, and I would show a little bit of film from the game the week before, and maybe break it down a little bit, or maybe not even break it down a little bit, but just talk about what's going on. This week I'm going to skip that because I want to forget that game. However, I am going to sprinkle some footage throughout the video just to throw subtle reminders at how bad we stunk the freaking TV up on this day. Not that I had it on my television to watch. I had to chase a stream online, which is fun, I might add. I love how you... Does anybody else love how you buy Game Pass, but they don't give you the option to watch it while it's on? They want you to go buy... I know everybody's going to tell me they want you to buy the ticket. Yeah, to hell with that. I'm not doing it. If they gave the ticket and the Game Pass away at in the same package, maybe. Well, anyhow, since we're not going to do any film review, I'm going to move right on along to some of the top topics that I want to talk about in this particular episode. Number one, Alex Smith's future. Man, what a big topic, right? I mean, I believe he's had several operations already, and that they found infection, or the infection started spreading. They had to remove some tissue in his leg. I believe they had to take the plate back out and maybe place it back in again after they took the infection that had come in after that out as well. It doesn't sound good. The more I hear about it, the more it reminds me of Joe Theismann's situation. Those compound fractures are bad. When the bone actually sticks out of the skin, it's a bad situation. I mean, there's infection goes into areas that the body has never been allowed to feel the open air before, and stuff just jumps in there. And with Theismann, he ended up having issues the same way. Of course, modern medicine wasn't what it is today, so that may be a deciding factor on if Smith can make a run at coming back or not. I know I also remember hearing that Theismann's legs, when everything was over with, one was longer than the other. They had to correct that further on down the road, I believe, with a hip surgery or alignment or something like that for him. But the leg injury caused that, was one of the major reasons why he didn't even try to make a comeback. And that's stuff that Alex is going to be up against because of his age, but because of the advancement in modern medicine and the sheer amount of money that's involved in all the situation. Something tells me that Alex Smith is not done yet. Obviously we haven't heard a statement from him yet. The Redskins are keeping it real hush-hush. The team is in the bed with him for the next 2 years, no matter what. So my thought is that the team is going to try to get behind him and try to hopefully get him to the finish line and bring him back. Now, whether or not that just be to come back and be a backup, I don't know what's going to happen there. But if the ball's in his court, if he retires, I think the Redskins are still on the line for like $40 million over the next 2 years. Maybe they can get some sort of exemption because he retires and be able to stretch it out over like 3 to 4 years. I don't know how that works as far as NFL statutes and rules go on that. I do know the contract is guaranteed. I don't know if they would do some type of deferment, but who knows. That's a real sticky situation. And another one that Bruce Allen created with the situation of not taking enough insurance out on his contract and a few other things. Well, the Redskins are still on the hook for a lot of money. So, it's just the way life goes right now. And that's a bad thing if you're a Washington Redskin fan. It means next year when they go to field a team, they're going to be kind of hamstrung on what they're going to do. Like Colt is still under contract, but he can void it if he gets a certain amount of stats. And I don't think he's going to hit those stat marks. So I don't really think I need to be talking about that anymore. But there was a void in there. He's not going to achieve the void. But from what I could tell, this is going to leave the Redskins having to probably sign a cheap 1-year prove-it deal type quarterback and more than likely draft one as well to go with Alex. And Colt's probably going to want to go test the free agent market. I mean, I don't know if anybody else has turned around and looked now, but the free agent market for quarterbacks is pretty good, even backups. I don't really know why, but it is. And I'm sure somebody's going to insert the Kaepernick comment, but I mean, it is what it is. There's a big market for backup quarterbacks. There's no good backups. Obviously, that's because injuries are just knocking people out, and the overall wealth of good quarterbacks in the league is down now, especially ones that don't already have a team. And even the ones that do have a team, there's still no good quality backups. That's really all I got on the Alex Smith thing, but I hope he gets everything back. I don't want him to lose any kind of control of his limbs. Obviously, I want him to have a good quality of life more than I am worried about the team losing cap dollars. Obviously it's such a Redskin thing to happen, but Alex Smith, I hope that he gets use of his leg, keeps use of his. I don't want him to have to lose his leg. My dad lost both of his legs before he passed away, and it's it breaks a man's spirit. And the next thing I want to talk about is a topic that I wish that we didn't even have to speak on, and it's one that peeked its little wicked little nose out this week when Mason Foster allegedly made comments about the fan base and about how certain players are being perceived versus how he was being perceived. And I really do not like seeing this at all. Like, one, from the fans, because this is the kind of thing that makes it hard for any independent person, whether it be a fan or maybe an independent blogger or whatever the case may be, just anybody that would try to approach a player on Twitter or Instagram or wherever on social media. This makes it more on lines of the facts they probably will not do it again. But it pisses me off that he said what he said, but it also pisses me off that the fan screenshot it and put it up for everybody to see, and it got passed around. At first it was looked at like a rumor, and then Jay Gruden kind of confirmed it today. I don't even know if he realized that he was confirming it, but he pretty much confirmed it today that it was true, but that he didn't care about it. That's a whole nother discussion within itself. Like, should Gruden care about that? Like, that's a discussion within itself. I know a lot of people are down on Gruden right now. Like, what is the thought pattern going forward with him and thoughts of that? I mean, does his ship too loose? It's really something that somebody should look at. I hate to see an undermined ship, run amok, as they might say. But I still believe firmly that this team needs to get rid of Bruce Allen and let Kyle Smith take over and let him decide who's going to be the next coach. If it's going to be Jay Gruden, then let Kyle Smith make that decision and let's move forward. If it's not going to be Jay Gruden, we need to move on. But it is what it is. Another thing I wanted to talk about is on the same lines with that, like, first of all, how does Mason Foster go back into the game now and play with the rest of his teammates looking at him and knowing what he said, knowing what he's insinuating, and maybe even some of them knowing who he's insinuating makes too much money but doesn't get the job done, but he's going to be the scapegoat for it. When stuff like this starts happening, you automatically know that there's problems. And if things start rearing their ugly little heads out like that. But I kind of wanted to, something I spoke on a little bit earlier, but I kind of wanted to go back to, is you kind of at some point have to ask yourself, why is Mason Foster the captain of the defense? Now, I know the guy is loaded with heart. I know that, okay? Will Compton was loaded with heart. Eventually, they let Will Compton go because they knew that he didn't have enough skill, okay? Because let's just face it, skill trumps heart when you're trying to make your defense better, which is why they supposedly went with Foster over Compton. So that's where we're at, right? But then when you look at tape, you see Foster is really dynamically slow. I won't say he's bad at tackling, but I won't say he's all that great at it either. And in coverage, sometimes, well, more than sometimes, he's a little bit lost at times. It's just sometimes, or a little bit more than sometimes, he's a little lost on some plays. Overall, he's a good player in certain situations against the run, but he doesn't really have much quickness, no speed to speak of at all. And he makes bad gap decisions. I don't know if anybody else has noticed that either, but he does. And I'm not trying to get down on him and be hard on him, but I believe that's the reason why the Redskins were willing to take that PR hit with Reuben Foster. It's because they know that what they have in the middle needs to be replaced. They got what's his name, Sean Dion Hamilton from Alabama. They're hoping that maybe there's a future there with him. I think that they know that there's going to be an opening at those positions. I don't think the team is going to bring Josh Brown back. I don't think they are. It doesn't look like he's really all that happy with what the situation is anyway. And Mason Foster last year, when he got moved to IR, went ballistic on social media. And he just went off. I think he thought that he was going to get cut and everything like that. And I guess the team got to him and told him, no, we're going to keep you. We're going to put you on IR this year and bring you back next year and make you a captain. And I think the team head office got ahead of themselves. The front office got ahead of themselves and gave him a captain way too early, because I don't think he should have got a captain at all. But they ended up, of course, bringing him back, not bringing, other people back. But at any rate, Foster is not a top-tier middle linebacker. Maybe if he was a rotational guy, I would have absolutely no problem with him. But being the starter and wearing wearing that C on his jersey, is a lot for a player of his stature. Now, you really have to ask yourself, why is Josh Norman not the captain? It really should be a question you ask yourself. With as much money as we pay him, with as good as he's supposed to be, and he's supposed to also be this mental warrior or whatever, where he plays mind games with people. As good as he's supposed to be and as much money as he's supposed to be making, he should be the captain. But in all actuality, the captain should probably be one of those defensive linemen, because nobody else on the team deserves to wear that C. Not in that secondary. Maybe Swearinger, but the last couple games, woo. And Clinton Dix, I don't even know what's going on there. I really don't. I'm not certain why they haven't rotated him out of the situation and let Nicholson play some. I mean, he's not playing well. But anyhow, the next thing I wanted to kind of talk on was Jordan Reed. You know, I spoke on his contract a little bit earlier. You know, what do Redskin fans really think we should do with Jordan Reed? Should he stay or should he go? You know, the team has been trying to bring, I believe his name's Jeremy Sprinkle, has been trying to bring Sprinkle along, and get things to the point of where he can perhaps be the blocking slash he's kind of okay, you know, doing the other things tight end. And it doesn't look bad running routes, which I heard was kind of his weakness, but he hasn't looked bad lately. And of course, Vernon Davis is getting old, and that's, you know, obviously not breaking news to anyone. But if they get rid of Jordan Reed or don't pay him next year, they save $6 million towards going somewhere else. Obviously, with the Alex Smith situation already there, they're going to need to be able to save money in other places. So if you let go of Reed, then you have a need at tight end, in my opinion. I'm not certain if you draft a guy. I guess you'd have to. I know they have a practice squad guy. I'm not certain of his name. It's slipping me in my mind at the moment. I'd have to look it up. I don't have it in my notes anywhere here. I don't believe. No, I don't see it. Anyway, but letting Jordan Reed go, the crazy part about it is, and it would kind of make me sick if it happened, he'd probably go somewhere else and do really well. And that really kills me because we don't have the team to build around him the correct way, and he is vulnerable to injury at all times. I mean, the guy just takes a lot of injuries. You know, and once again, that goes on how severe the foot injury he has, but it looks like he's going to be shut down. You know, at some point, if Gruden keeps his job, at some point you have to start wondering what's going to happen on defense. Because it really looks like, you know, the defensive coach over there has kind of lost control of the ship. And make no mistakes about it, I like our defensive coordinator, okay? I like the fact he's a former player. I like the fact that he's down and dirty, former linebacker. I like the fact that he likes to, you know, be a no-nonsense guy sometimes. I think maybe his sense of humor is a little much for his position. Maybe he should try to put that in check a little. But I do believe that if we were to get rid of him, that we would be able to promote Jim Tomsula. And the guys on the defensive line, their production and the way that they've played this year should be a sign that Tomsula could be a very good defensive coordinator. Now, I'd much rather have him as the defensive line coach, but that's just a thought to throw out there. Could Tomsula be the defensive coordinator of the future? Just a thought. If we keep Gruden, it's a hardcore thing to think of because I don't know if I want Gruden to pick another defensive coordinator. He's already had a couple chances, man, and neither one of them have been good. I couldn't believe he picked Jim Haslett. Oh, that man. Anyway, and that's kind of where we're at right now. You know, what we're going to do in that situation is kind of unknown at this point. I think that they might be coaching for their jobs. Something tells me Gruden's probably going to come back. Even if Allen gets fired, something tells me Gruden comes back. And I know that Redskin fans are just completely, thoroughly pissed off and tired of the product they're getting. Believe me, I know. From a fan of over 35 years, believe me, I know about the frustration level and where we are now. People that are 30 and under, you know, I can't even, you know, get angry at them if they decide they don't want to be a fan of the Washington Redskins anymore. I can't. I can't get angry at them. You know, I don't even know what to say to them. I mean, I've seen the glory days. So to me, it's through thick and through thin. I witnessed the good. Now I'm having to sit through the bad. I couldn't root for another team. You know, I heard somebody say the other day it might get bad enough that they have to rebrand because the fans are stopping going to the games in droves. It'll make Snyder sell the team, and whoever buys it will rebrand. I don't believe that. You know, Daniel Snyder is a very dedicated person when it comes to business, and especially the Washington Redskins. I don't believe that. I'm not certain he would go belly up to try to protect the name, but I do believe that he would fight it with every inch of what he can fight it, if you know what I mean. One stat to look at, the Redskins only turned the ball over 9 times in their first 10 games. Now, they've turned it over 7 times in the last 3 games after Alex Smith was lost for the season. There's a -5 turnover differential in that span, and they were +12 in the first 10 games. Those are just a couple stats that I had written down in future episodes of this. I will go through the week and copy and paste certain things to be able to just put up here, maybe even just take screenshots of certain tweets and put them up. I believe yesterday the Skins signed Kyle Fuller, a guard, which we had no guards that were playable this past weekend. We had 4 tackles with a center. That's what we had this past weekend. That was pretty wild. And it showed, too, because one of the tackles we had signed, he went out into the flat, into a play that generally Brandon Sheriff would have been out there, and he's like the best pulling guard in the game. And Sheriff would have made the block and unhinged somebody, probably lifted him up and put him on the ground. And I can't even remember the guy's name right now, but he ran up and kind of just tried to rub his shoulder and missed the block altogether, and Chris Thompson got tackled. It was horrible. I was watching the coach's film earlier. It's really bad. There wasn't much to look at good on the tape. I will say that Josh Johnson proved that he can play the RPO, and that we could run that and maybe produce something and be able to take advantage of the fact of it's a guessing game on if they could hit our quarterback or not, versus trying to drop back with a line that can't block. They don't have any guards or anybody that's really healthy. And both their tackles are hurt. They're both playing hurt. Both have been playing hurt all year. Anyhow, I want to move on to another topic. And I feel like I've hit this topic several times in the past. But I'd like to point out that Bruce Allen is now 58, 85, and 1 in the 9+ seasons he has ran the team. And he's gone through some drama. Everybody always wants to point out the winning off the field comments, but the guy definitely is under fire right now with what's happening with the team. The team is just not doing well. Secrets keep popping out about the stadium, though. I'm wondering if they can get the stadium deal finished if Allen won't find the door a little faster. I really honestly believe the only reason why he's still there is because Snyder knows politically he needs a little bit more clout than he has. A lot of people don't like Daniel Snyder. But with Bruce Allen next to him, Bruce Allen, that name carries a little bit of clout. It carries a little bit of weight. George Allen is a known person in D.C. He was a senator. He was a House representative member, and he was a governor of Virginia. He knows people. He has a lot of friends in high places. And those type of people, are who you need to know to get stadium deals, especially in Virginia. Anybody that knows the state of Virginia knows that you got to know somebody to really get something done. Now, I'm not certain about Maryland as much because I don't really know Maryland's government that well. But I know that D.C. is really a iffy situation to what's going to happen there, because some people are completely against the name and they're going to protest them getting money through any type of federal land or any kind of land grant. So Northern Virginia, in my opinion, probably is number 3 on the list of most people's where they would want it to be, but it's probably still the most likely. It would be great if they could move it back to D.C. and put it on the spot where RFK is at. I would love that, and I think every fan wants that. I'm not certain that that'll happen, though, because of the politics involved. But I do believe that's the only reason why Bruce Allen has a job. is to try to continue on with the stadium deal. And maybe I'm wrong there. Hopefully I am. Hopefully Snyder's already had it through his head that he wants to get rid of this guy. I know that there's been reports that he had kind of fallen in a doghouse of Snyder's doghouse, and that he wanted to kind of like readjust his title, so to speak. But in my opinion, until that happens, until Allen is gone, the Redskins can't move forward, because I don't want Jay Gruden being able to pick his next defensive coordinator, okay? I want a guy in charge to do that. And I don't trust Bruce Allen to do that. And I know that they would probably try to get Doug Williams to trot somebody out there, because we all love Doug, okay? But it's obvious to see what's going on there. Bruce is in control, and they're using Doug as some sort of puppet. I don't like that. I don't like seeing that. You know, and I'm not 100% certain that's what's going on, but it damn sure looks that way. So, you know, they could save that for me. You know, I'd rather Bruce is replaced, and if he assumes another position elsewhere, I know some people don't like that idea. I don't mind it, as long as he's not choosing the football decisions anymore. Let him go decide what's going to happen with another section of the team or whatever. I don't really care about that. I don't personally have any problems with him, even though I know some people do. I think that he hasn't been good for the Redskins, though, when it comes to on the field. Maybe his job should have always been off the field. But that's neither here nor there. You know, the team has a pretty big game coming up this weekend. Pretty much the season is on the line. Those who don't think that the season ended last week or the week before, but be honest with you, looking back on it, it kind of appears like the season ended when Alex Smith got hurt. But for those still paying attention to this season, this is pretty much it. You know, if the Redskins were to win this game against the Jacksonville Jaguars, which they can win. Jacksonville has a tough defense, but Jacksonville is not really good on the offensive side of the ball, and they have been susceptible to losing to a lot of teams this year. You know, I know some people probably thinking, oh, yep, there we go, another team that we should beat. But it is what it is. We probably should beat Jacksonville. We got a tough game coming up against Tennessee, and then Philadelphia to end the season. And Philly is beat up, not as quite as bad as we are, but they're beat up. And I'm hearing that Carson Wentz may be done for the year. I don't know which direction that'll head. You know, obviously that could change, but he's got back issues. I think they're kind of trying to determine whether or not how long it'll be a problem. But, you know, whatever. Like I said, stay in tune on that one, whoever you follow for Eagle News. But moving forward, as crazy as it may sound, the Redskins are still one of those teams down there at the bottom where it says in the hunt. Which I don't know whether or not that's sad or interesting. That a team that is pretty much dead in the water is still listed in the they could make it. You know, and the other teams are kind of, you know, sad too. I mean, you got 5 and 8 teams, you got, you know, 6 and 9 teams. I mean, you know, 6 and 7 teams, excuse me, 6 and 9, no. 6 and 7 teams that are still in the mix, you know. And those guys could probably be picking 9th or 10th in the draft right now if the season ended, but they're still in the mix to make the playoffs. Crazy. Parity across the league, injury across the league, bad situations across the league. I think the league is just hit a spot right now too. And, you know, I'm going to get into that in further episodes, but I'm going to cut this off now. And in future episodes, this will be a spot where I might do some calls if I'm live, because I'm going to do some of these live as I get more comfortable. I may do some. I have a number everybody can call in, or I might just do, you know, the top questions from the comment section on Facebook or the comment section on YouTube. And in the future, also, perhaps maybe doing some Facebook Lives. I have a pretty good sized Facebook page over there to check out that I'll be talking more about in the future. But anyway, that's all I got. I appreciate everybody coming by and hanging out, listening to the show. For all those that are still listening and tuned in, hail to the Redskins.